everybody. Welcome back to the AlfieWhattam Technology Podcast. Thanks for watching live. We've got a special episode today with software engineering, operations and technology leaders within the finance, tech and FinTech sector across the UK. Today, I'm joined by a couple of special guests. I will give them an opportunity to introduce themselves rather than myself doing it. No particular order, but Vasile, do you want to kick us off? Tell everybody who you are and what your background is, please.
Yeah, sure. So my background is mostly front end and a bit of law. I have a master's in corporate law, but what my expertise is, I'm building tech teams for FinTech. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you, mate. Fred?
Thank you, Alfie. I've spent my career growing and scaling technology companies in the US, Europe, Asia, and the UK. Currently, I am the COO of Suede Labs. We are a RegTech SaaS solution, growing very quickly, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, mate. Joe, could you give us an intro, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Pettersson. I'm the CTO at a payment network called Banked. My background is, I think, similar to some of the other folks here. I've spent the last 20 years or so building and scaling engineering teams, lots of FinTech, worked at big tech companies and a few others. And yeah, I'm delighted to be here and help any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you, mate. And Tanmaya, last but definitely not least.
Hey all, this is Tanmaya. I'm from live from Milton Keynes. I've got 18 years of software industry experience spanning across various industries really, IT, consultancy, defense, airspace, insurance. Right now, I'm into finance and tax. So I'm working for Zero as an engineering team lead. So over here, I'm in charge of building engineering teams and as well as shipping a nice, well-polished product.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining and thank you to the audience. Just a reminder for the audience, please post your questions in the live chat. We also have a thumbs up feature as well. So if you see a question that you like, just click thumbs up and that will rank it towards the top so you're not asking the same questions. And we'll get through in the next 25 minutes some questions related to building FinTech teams, searching for FinTech roles, engineering, operations, and that type of thing. Obviously, not looking for questions about interest rates or whatever happening in the economy. That's not the right type of conversation, but people that have been on this this call tend to know the flavor. Just to keep score, we're up to 897 live viewers, which is a lot more than we usually get, which is pretty good. So thanks for tuning in, and obviously the recording will be available on Spotify within the hour as well for people that have joined late. So first question, no particular order, we'll go to Sergey, who's ranked at the top. Sergey says, I've recently joined a large UK bank as a Java developer. This is my first role in the FinTech space. Do you have any advice for an engineer like me who's just now entering this sector? Thank you, Sergey, for the question. So Sergey's just joined the FinTech sector as a developer. What advice would we have for him? Fred, could you give us a minute of wisdom for Sergey, if that's okay, please?
Sure. I think when you're working with a large organization, you'll learn a lot about processes, and that's a good thing, because then once you've learned that, you can take those processes and modify them or adapt them if you move to another organization, particularly a startup. So I would say learn as much as possible about processes and how they develop, and then also meet people. Because those people you meet, you become like an alumni network. And companies, I've worked at Skype and Microsoft and eBay and Symphony and other companies, and I stay in touch with those people. So when you have a brand name, particularly a large bank, that's something you take with you on your CV throughout your life. And it's good if you can develop some good relationships when you're there.
Absolutely. Your network becomes your net worth in a cliche term, but it's so true. Tanmaya, what are your thoughts on this? What advice would you give to Sergey?
So I think I resonate with what Fred has said. So not only from the technical perspective, so if he's like a fresh graduate, then he needs to focus on the technical skills as well. because technical world Java is constantly evolving. So just make sure that he keeps himself up to date with all the new frameworks and things that keep on coming up. And apart from that, he has just entered the financial sector. So fintech is quite a vast one. So he needs to decide on which part of fintech he wants to go in, whether it is decentralized payments, and based on that, once he likes a particular domain, he needs to do a bit more research on that. Maybe go on any free courses that are available on the internet. So basically gather his awareness on various things, and again build his network, because the skills that he will learn now, he can reuse them in his future and next jobs as well.
Absolutely. Love the idea of being super specialized. I mean, in a world full of generalists, the specialist is king or queen, basically. What about on your side, Joe? What advice would you give to somebody just entering fintech, mate?
I think that what Fred and Tanmaya talked about, they resonate a lot, and I would double down on what they said. But I mean, this is broadly about any career, but like the thing that, so one of the underlying messages I took from what Fred said and what Tanmaya said is to be thoughtful about your career, to think about it as an artifact to develop and to care for, to, as Fred said, build a network, build people who you can utilize and you can be utilized by later in your career. The time I said, think about those skills really profoundly and think about where you want to invest and how you want to move your career forward. And then finally, I think that the final thing I would add is that, like, one of the things that I think all of us can testify to here is that fintech's a very exciting space. Fintech is a space that is growing enormously, has a lot of focus, has a lot of investment in it. And ultimately, like, I would encourage people to take advantage of that. I would encourage people to actually say, how can they think about growing their careers? How can they think about accelerating how they think about their careers in the same way that the fintech environment is expanding itself, right? How can they tie themselves to that success? Because I think that at the moment, people entering this domain have a fantastic opportunity in front of them.
Absolutely, mate. Well said. And Vasile, what would you say to finish this question off, please?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Fred and Joe, because networking is a key, but it's always the same. And I want to kind of repeat myself to something that I posted recently, that life is a team game, not a solo. So that just emphasizing that you actually need to pay attention and spend your energy to build and the network. Yes. And the only thing that besides this networking thing, I think that the big corporate, like big banks, is a great opportunity to learn best practices for security. This is what will be very valuable whenever you go to any other startups or
One quick thing I'd like to add. If you have the opportunity, volunteer for a job that nobody wants to do. So if your boss or someone else asks, do you want to go to this country that maybe you don't want to go to, or work on a project that sounds boring, volunteer, because doing that kind of thing will be recognized. Maybe not immediately, but you will get some skills. You will be seen as someone who's a team player, someone who is willing to take a risk, and that it can be very valuable in your career.
Absolutely, it's someone that goes the extra mile, right? It's the rarest quality in the world, but also the one that people will demand the most. And love the advice from a few of you around the benefits of being in a big company with process, with structure. I spent 5 years at one of the biggest corporates in the world in my sector, and learned so much there that I was able to apply to startup life once I started my own business. So hopefully, Sergey, that's useful and gave you some good insights. We'll go to Akbar next, who's asked, what innovations in the fintech industry most excite you? So what's happening in fintech right now which gets you excited? Could be a technology, could be a company doing something, could be a trend, a movement, anything like that. If we go, Joe, not putting you on the spot, but what gets you excited when we talk about kind of fintech in 2022?
I can talk very selfishly about Banked and the thing that Banked's doing, which is attempting to build a competitor to Visa and MasterCard, right? Like attempting to, if you design a payment network in 2022, what would that look like? But I'm not going to do that because I think that may be a bit like, maybe a bit on the nose. But I think broadly, fintech has seen a massive unbundling of financial products and services in the last 10 years. And that's really exciting because it's pushing regulation into places, so pushing innovation into places where you just never saw it before. I mean, like we have some folks here from a RegTech business, right? Like if you went back 15 years and you talked about innovation in RegTech, like that would have been something that would have been very surprising to people. Like actually, is there space for innovation? And there really is, right? Like I think one of the things I'm particularly excited about, and this is kind of involves my day-to-day job at Banked, is we need to protect against financial crime. Right, we have an obligation as a society and as people in fintech to be able to protect people and protect humans. And a big part of that is about understanding who the people are that we transact with, right? Like individuals or companies and others. And I think that there's been a significant sea change, and I think becoming even more exciting about how companies like Banked or like others can understand who their customers are in privacy protecting ways. And I think that's really exciting because it's part of a change in fintech of people thinking about privacy and thinking about end users, how we protect their data and how we perform our duty of care to them. So when I think about it, and this is a very recency bias thing for me because I've been thinking about it a lot recently, but ultimately that's the thing I'm really excited about. It's actually how we can know our customers better, how we can prevent fin crime and others, and we can do it while preserving their privacy.
Absolutely. I think we'd all agree that that's certainly an area to focus on at the moment and moving forward. What about from your side, Vasile? Have you got anything to add around innovations within this industry?
Yeah, I think that we can't answer to this question without mentioning DeFi and blockchain stuff. So I'm not talking about crypto because I'm a bit skeptical about crypto, but I'm about this the blockchain technology and what can be done with it, especially even for this privacy, etc. That might bring a lot of extra security for the industry. So I think it's for me, I believe that the blockchain in fintech is just a very, very beginning, and crypto is just a tiny product that can be created.
We've got loads of questions in the chat about crypto, so I will try and get to at least one of them because it's certainly an interesting area. It's slightly different, but still the same with being this world. Tanmaya, what innovations excite you at the moment?
Well, as you everyone might have noticed that since pandemic, everybody's habits have changed. The world has all gone online. So, we tend to do quite a lot of shopping online now. So I believe, 9 in 10 now, all of us, we go on to Amazon and do our shopping. So I believe, payments is something that is evolving the way people do payments. We have got all the apps and everything is on one click. We have got Stripe, we have got Google Pay, lots of methods to do payments. So payments is, I think, one thing which is constantly evolving. And as Joe has covered, along with payments comes the security to make sure that, it's safe from the fraud prevention point of view. So that's one thing is, really evolving. And another thing is the world is now, it's a global world. So people are moving across. So transferring money overseas, that seems to be a thing that it is a boom. We've got lots of companies TransferWise, these things are coming up. So that's one thing that people can look for.
Absolutely. The payments one is very interesting. I mean, just from simplistic terms, being a kid paying with coins to now paying with my Apple Watch, it's a revolution, right? And that only will continue to scale. Fred, what would your what innovations in fintech, Fred, excite you the most? What gets you interested right now?
Yeah, I would concur with my colleagues, Joe in particular. I think DeFi, blockchain are huge. And the real question is, Web 2 has all of this infrastructure and hardware, whether it's about payments, security, regulation, already built in. And how does that move to the Web 3 world? Because those structures do not exist. And how do you make the connections and bring those infrastructure and those functionality to a Web 3 world? That's what's really exciting for me.
Okay, cool. You've all talked Web3 a little bit there, so I'll go to a Web3 question. Hannah has asked, among many people, do you think innovations like fintech apps and crypto will ever eventually replace traditional banking corporations? That's quite a big question. Vasile, what do you think, mate? Crypto versus banks? Is it versus? Is it? Should they be working together? What are your thoughts on that topic?
It's I think we're always chasing some kind of dream, right? That's everything will be diversified and we don't need banks, etc. But the reality is, I think that you always need somebody who will kind of bring the services to you, make it useful, make it usable, and bring this extra security, improve the UX, etc. So it's not about just because if you think about that, you already have this bank-free transactions, right, with crypto. Yes. But barely few people using their terminal to send money from one to another, right? So we always have this kind of. I think it's more about. We will get new organizations, or the existing organizations. They will kind of change their strategy or pivot a bit to with the evolution of blockchain. But I think that we need those organizations to bring these extra services on top of the technology that we will get.
Absolutely. So for you, it's about both rather than one replacing the other. And Tanmaya, what are your views on that topic?
Well, personally, although being in FinTech, I am kind of, a bit risk averse. So I haven't ventured yet into cryptocurrency, but we've seen, how much things have evolved. But if you look at day-to-day life, I think there is a long way to go when, I think banks are here to stay. Although you might be seeing banks are shutting down, but it's all moving online. So I think the actual currency is here to stay rather than the virtual one.
Okay, cool. So you're more proponent of the challenger banks, the Monzos, the Revoluts, not replacing traditional banks, but banks going more and more online as crypto grows. Okay, cool. Joe, what's your perspective on this, mate?
I think I would go further than Vasile. I'm a very large crypto skeptic in many ways. But what I see as the value of crypto is that there are very few humans in the world who say, I want to use crypto, right? There just aren't many of them as a thing. That's not how humans talk about things. But what crypto has done is it forces banks to start to address some of the underlying user experience and commercial propositions that crypto brings to consumers, which is reducing fees for making payments. It's about making infrastructure more decentralized so that ultimately there are different methods of control over making transactions. None of those things are inherent to crypto, but they've forced large banks to start to have those conversations, start to think about how they think about, Tam talked before about international money and settlement, right? Crypto has forced a discussion at banks that hasn't happened before about addressing some of these fundamental questions. And for me, that's a lot of the value that crypto has had on the existing financial ecosystem. I mean, you talk about stable coins and other things, and banks are attempting to dip their toes into them. But the reality is that like attacker banks, about several years ago, crypto is now forcing these large banks to think about their products, think about their services, and think about these kind of entrenched ideas that have existed for so long in a new way. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to adopt cryptocurrency, but it means they'll think about, hey, how can we reduce the barriers to cost? Like, how can we reduce the barriers to access? How can we increase privacy? And I think those are things that I think are very positive impacts, but hopefully we can do them without heating up the planet through mining things.
Oh man, hopefully. I mean, the new Ethereum update does reduce the energy consumption by like 99%. So hopefully we start seeing more coins move in that direction. I certainly echo what you said there, Joe. Fred, what are your views on crypto? Will it replace banks? Is it there to work alongside them? What's your views on blockchain, on DeFi, and that world?
Crypto's another tool. I've played around with it for a while. The big banks aren't going away. Most of the neobanks lose money, as you probably know. Retail banking in particular is not a good business. You need massive scale. You need to be able to cross-sell. Revolut's made all its money on crypto trading and cross-selling, not on being a retail bank or on payments. And it's good that there's pressure on fees that others have said. It's good that there's competition. That's great. I think the real question is, who are the emerging, I would say, brands going to be?
Sure.
I.e. Apple Bank, Amazon Bank, Google Bank, the ones who are really driving huge amounts of commerce and trade and have very strong brands. That to me is particularly interesting.
Oh yeah, when Apple made the move into getting more and more into payments, it was obvious that it was going to be something big in a couple of years. So it's such an easy thing for them to do. Just beep, there you go. And you know, as more and more tech companies become fintech companies as a division, and we'll see more and more of that stuff happening. So hopefully, Hannah, that was useful from a crypto perspective. We'll finish up now with Andrew, who's got a question. I think I know who you are, Andrew. So thanks for joining. And Andrew says he's currently the CTO for a hedge fund. We're currently going through a major digital transformation project, and we are looking to hire multiple technology roles. What recommendations would you give as we start to recruit and scale our team? That's a good question, Andrew. We're just past 1,000 live viewers as well, which is great. We don't get that often on the live episode, so thanks for tuning in. Tanmaya, what advice would you give to Andrew as he starts to grow his engineering team, please?
So if he hasn't got any team in place, I would recommend that, you know, he starts from kind of hiring an engineering manager and then an experienced manager who has got experience working in fintech, as well as ramping up teams as well. So you know, we need to check that he has got they have got a proven record in ramping up teams, and especially working on the greenfield project side as well.
Yes.
So choosing the right talent is very important. So the engineering manager needs to be specifically tasked with finding the talent who has got experience in working in fast-paced and startup industry. And you know, I will also say that do not have too many rounds of interviews. Make sure that you have a nice technical test, not a technical one, but an assessment which assess an individual's aptitude rather than the exact skill set that they need. And I would also like to say that apart from having experienced staff in the team, they should also give a chance to the upcoming talent, because this is an opportunity for the upcoming talent, and the fresh grads, they are full of energy, and they are willing to prove themselves. So it works in both ways. So the company benefits from good talent, as well as the upcoming grads, they get an experience of joining the fintech team.
Absolutely. I love your observation around not having too many interview stages. I see so many companies that have 5-6 rounds, and by the time the candidate gets to that point, surprise, surprise, the candidate's gone and they've accepted something else, where a company was more agile and moved quicker and that sort of thing. Good talent isn't around for long.
Just one thing, the talent in fintech is very fast moving. So
Absolutely.
If the companies don't move fast, the good candidates are picked up very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. Vasile, what would you add to that advice for Andrew as he scales his team?
Yeah, I think it's like, from my experience, I really like to hire extroverts, the people who are natively looking for communication and collaboration within the team. I think this is a crucial skill for teams, because my focus always with all my teams that I used to work is that I'm kind of harvesting and pushing people to collaborate, because when you join in any team, your mentality must be that you're become a member of the team, not a superstar or like a very skilled guy that basically the superstar saying. So you need to understand that you need to find people who understand that if you have a problem within the team with whatever it is, it's their problem as well. So they need to always treat any problem, because in the end of the day, you're a group of people with the same goal to build a product, to deliver the same.
Yes.
And this is the main mindset that you need to look when you're hiring new guys or girls to your team.
Okay, no problem. I think Fred was mid-airport then, so I think we might have just lost him, but we'll see if his connection resumes and he joins back. But we'll go over to yourself, Joe. What advice would you give, please, to Andrew as he starts scaling his tech team? Oh, you're on mute, buddy.
For my sins, I've been part of a number of large digital transformations. I was at McKinsey for a while when them, and so don't judge me too harshly, please. I've been atoning ever since. But there's a cultural thing that's super important to get right in those transformations. And fundamentally, most legacy organizations, they think of what we do as a cost center. right? They think of it as a cost of doing business. And what that means is you have this constant deflationary pressure on cost. Spend less money, pay people less, right? Outsource things. And that is a culturally pretty poisonous thing to do when you're trying to build a great engineering culture. So the biggest value as a leader you can have as part of that process is about moving the perception of what we do to be a value generator and not a cost center. The people that join this team add value to this business. They generate revenue. And when that's accepted by an organization, then everything else becomes easier. Paying people more, giving them more autonomy, all of these things that are really important to an engineering culture fundamentally become easier because there's a different mindset that exists in the other leads in the organization. And the final thing is, there's only one thing that I've ever been able to ubiquitously say is true to improve an engineering team. Almost everywhere I've ever seen it done is hire more people who aren't like straight white guys.
Yes,
that's had a ubiquitous positive impact to every single organization I've ever worked at. Apart from that, everything's quite context specific.
It's so true. It's just diversity of thought, diversity of opinion, diversity of background. You know, if you have people that think exactly the same, whatever the gender, whatever the race is, they're going to produce the same type of thing. You know, it's just, you need diversity and the people that are using the product, the service, the customers, they're not necessarily a reflection of who you are. So you need the diversity to get the diversity of the positive feedback as well, if that makes sense. Sure. Cool. That's an awesome way to end it, Joe. Thanks for that. And thanks for everybody for taking part, all of our speakers. Thank you to everybody for tuning in as well. If you enjoyed this episode, just as a reminder, the podcast is brought to you by wheelofalpha.com. If you're a finance or fintech sector specialist and you're looking to hire UK software developers, then the team at Alpha Technology have hired devs from Goldman Sachs, from Monzo, from Stripe, and so on, across React and Angular, Java, C#, Python, PHP, mobile, and more. So if you're looking to hire UK software developers in fintech, then welovealpha.com is the place where you need to go. I've even got it on my shirt. That's how great they are. Cool. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow. Every day we're releasing new episodes now on Spotify, so make sure that you're followed if you're not already. And thank you again for your time, the speakers, the audience, and everybody else. Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Imagine if you were able to hire the next Elon Musk, or if you got a job at Facebook back when it was just a startup. Well, these people and these opportunities, they are still out there, and we have access to them. Access to all of them. At Alpha Technology, we specialise in software development recruitment across London and the UK. From React to Java to C# and more. We represent the best front-end, back-end, and full-stack engineers on the market. This includes top developers from Meta, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, and more. Our clients operate across AI, blockchain, VR, AR, FinTech, EdTech, Health Tech, and more. From startups to global enterprises and everything in between. But Alpha isn't just a recruitment agency. We are also a tech community. We host podcasts, run meetup events, and lead ED&I initiatives, supporting women in technology, BAME individuals, and the Tech for Good ecosystem. So, if you're a company looking to hire software engineers, or if you're a developer open to new opportunities yourself, then we are here to help. Alpha Technology. Recruiting for the future.